Hey everyone, it's John Dehlin of Mormon Stories Podcast. I just this weekend had a quick set of requests that I wanted to make to my friends, my listeners, anyone in the sound of my voice, especially those in the Mormon or progressive or post-Mormon communities. I got a call from my sweet mom today. She was in tears because one of her closest friends and neighbors for decades just passed away from COVID. She's in Draper, Utah, and her dear friend passed away from COVID. It seems like maybe some of the loved ones of this neighbor and friend of my mom's, with I'm sure the best intentions, discouraged this wonderful woman, former Mormon Tabernacle Choir singer, just an amazing, faithful Mormon woman. It seems like some close family members of hers discouraged her from getting the COVID vaccine for whatever reason, and she just passed away. And I know that that is anecdotal. I admit that. However, I've also just read in the Salt Lake Tribune that the ICUs in Utah are now over capacity, that the healthcare workers in the ICUs are super discouraged and overworked, and that more than 90% of those in the ICUs in Utah, and I'm just going to guess, are not vaccinated, and are there's a good chance that a good percentage of them are Mormon. So things feel kind of real and kind of real serious right now. And as someone who cares about the health of Utahns, of Mormons, of post-Mormons, of everyone, I want to do whatever I can to be responsible and to be a healthy part of the solution. So here's a couple things. I talked to Margie, and Margie, when Margie and I talked, what we understand is that the most effective way to make a difference in this issue, to sort of change hearts and minds about the importance of the vaccine, is to share local stories of people who, for whatever reason, chose not to get the vaccine, and then either them or their loved ones were harmed as a result. And so I have a hard request to ask. I know that some of the newspapers and media have been doing this. If any of you within the sound of my voice, or someone you know or love, who's Mormon or ex-Mormon or Utahn or in any of the states relevant, that would sort of touch the hearts of Mormon Stories listeners and those who are in the sound of my voice. If any of you are willing to share your story about how you or a loved one chose not to get the vaccine, and then either got sick or passed away as a result, I would do my best to hold your story very sacredly, very respectfully, but I would really appreciate anyone who's willing to come on Mormon Stories Podcast and share such a difficult story. So that's the first request. If you know someone who fits this bill and is willing, please message me or email me at mormonstories@gmail.com, or message me, and I will record their story soon. So that's the first request. The second request I have, and it's a request. The second request I have is, if you, I know that there are a lot of Mormons experiencing a faith crisis right now because they're troubled by the fact that the church has weighed in on this issue, or that the prophet has weighed in on this issue. And I just, anyone within the sound of my voice, if you are having a faith crisis, and you become disillusioned by something the Mormon First Presidency or the prophet has said, I want you to know you're not alone. Mormon Stories Podcast and the work we do at the Open Stories Foundation is directed towards people who are hurt or upset, or disillusioned by things said by the prophets or the First Presidency or apostles. So I just want you guys to know that we want to be here for you, Mormon Stories Podcast, and the Mormon Stories Podcast Facebook community, the YouTube channel, all of our different channels. We want to be here for you, and we want you to feel safe, like we are a place where you can come to resolve your faith doubts and questions and concerns. There are a lot of members of the Mormon Stories Podcast community who have lost their faith over things like LGBTQ issues, race issues, the church's treatment of intellectuals, of women's issues, of feminists. and historians and people just who spoke it out on social media. So I definitely just want to say, if any of you fit this criteria, having a faith crisis because of the recent events or any other event, we just want to let you know Mormon Stories Podcast at mormonstories.org, the Mormon Stories Podcast community on Facebook, and the page on Facebook, and the YouTube channel, and on TikTok and on Instagram. We're all here to help you as best as we can. And please message me to know if there's a way we can help you in the future or better. Now, the third point is actually really, really important as well. And this is something I'm saying to myself as well as I'm saying to other people. And I should also say that this message is brought to you not only by me, but by my co-host on Mormon Stories Podcast, Kara Burrell. She's been great and highly influential in helping me think about this and take a more constructive approach. So thanks to Kara. So here's the final thing. My cousin, Arthur Hatton, after a post that I made that was not constructive, basically made this loving comment where he said, I think there should be a moratorium on sarcasm or negativity or, or mean-spiritedness or belittlement about COVID and the vaccine, for at least the next 3 to 6 months. And Arthur's completely right. And this is what I want to ask of progressive and post-Mormons, and especially those who follow Mormon Stories Podcast, care about people who are in faith crisis, or Mormons, or Utahns, or Arizonans, or Idahoans, or anyone else affected by Mormons or post-Mormons worldwide. And especially people who are in the Mormon Stories YouTube channel or the Mormon Stories Podcast community on Facebook or in any of the Mormon Stories social media outlets. It's really easy to slip into mocking or belittling people who, for whatever reason, have decided not to get the vaccine, during this time. And what I want to say is my allegiance, and I've been guilty of that. So what I want to say is my allegiance is, if I'm getting centered, if I'm listening to Kara and my friends and my wiser self and my nephew Arthur and others, my wisest self is telling me that this is not a time to belittle people. This is not a time to mock people. This is not a time to talk down to people. It is a time to be supportive and caring, educate people if that's useful, but definitely don't belittle or demean people or be sarcastic or talk down to people or mock people. And that should be true always. And it's always hard when you're dealing with high demand religions and or cults. It's just hard. But that's the way I want it to be, especially around this important issue around the vaccine. And specifically because what we don't want to do is create more resistance or the backfire effect. We all know about the backfire effect in Mormonism, which is where the more harsh and mean and unkind ex-Mormons are about losing their faith, the more they just create and strengthen resistance from believers. Well, the same thing's true with COVID. So if you believe that the vaccine is helpful for most people and that most people should get it except under extreme circumstances, if that's how you really think and feel, and if you're frustrated at the lack of vaccine uptake in Mormonism and post-Mormonism in Utah, wherever, the last thing you want to do is create resistance and make people less likely to get the vaccine. And so, I just want to make a final call with everyone in the sound of my voice to not create the backfire effect with people who are afraid of the vaccine, or who are against the vaccine. I think the best thing that we can do is identify people who have been hurt, local people who have been hurt by not getting the vaccine, and have them share their stories and lift their stories. That's my understanding. Even science, although I believe in science and I believe in sharing science and evidence, these days science is easily dismissed by those who are, disinclined to believe in science or trust authority. So what people are going to trust most are local people who are influenced or negatively influenced. So that's what I'm calling on everyone to do. Focus on that. Focus on kindness. Focus on education. Don't demean or belittle in the Mormon Stories Podcast community, on the Mormon Stories Podcast Facebook page, in YouTube, on the Mormon Stories, TikTok, Instagram, wherever. And that's what I'm asking everyone to consider. That's what I'm committing to try and do. And soon this week, we're going to be doing a Mormon Stories Podcast episode, bringing on some people who are super knowledgeable and or experts in this field to help educate. And like I said, just as a final close, I just want to please ask anyone in the sound of my voice, if you know anyone, Mormon, post-Mormon, Utahn, Idaho, and Arizona, anyone who would have influence as with progressive or post-Mormons or Orthodox Mormons or Utahns, if you know anyone, if you or anyone you know has suffered from not getting the vaccine and regrets not getting the vaccine, or regrets a loved one not getting the vaccine, and you're willing to tell your story, please message me, email me at mormonstories@gmail.com, message me on all the platforms, and I'm going to do my best to help you tell your story so that we can move the needle in the right direction. I love you guys. Hope you're doing well. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys soon on another episode of Mormon Stories Podcast. And a huge thanks to Kara Burrell and Arthur Hatton for helping to shape and influence a more constructive approach for me on this issue. Thanks, everybody.